This episode of Chicago's Bravest Stories is brought to you by Genico Roofing. You can find them on Facebook, Jenico.
Vince, who knows building, construction, and roofing?
Firefighters do.
And this company is firefighter owned and operated.
So Genico are specialized in residential roof tear-offs here in Chicago and the suburbs. They are licensed and insured. You can get a hold of our friend Jim at Genico at 815-693-5665. Genico.
Engine 1, Engine 4, Truck 2, Truck 10. Ambulance 82, Battalion 2. Fire 1020 North Main. Help is on the way.
Okay, well, welcome back to Chicago's Bravest Stories. We have an interesting couple guests with us today from the Chicago Fire Boat Tour.
We've got Captain Ray and Captain Eric. Gentlemen, you guys operate the Chicago Fire Boat Tours. This is correct?
That is correct.
Awesome. I wanted to make sure I got all the words in a row the right way. Yeah, and where you guys, we've got some retired CFD boats that you guys will take them on tours. It's a super interesting tour. But Captain Eric, Captain Ray, could you guys kind of give us your guys' background?
Yeah, sure. So this is Captain Ray. I was in the Navy in the late 90s. Served on two different ships. I was a boiler tech. So not only did I make steam steam for a living, but also trained in firefighting as well as an engineer. So spent 4 years in the Navy, been all over the world several times over in that time. And when I got out of the Navy, my love of the water still continues, and found my way getting a captain's license. Worked for a couple different companies, and saw this boat, and said, "Boy, we got to get this back down to Chicago."
So, where were you guys from originally?
I lived in the south side of Chicago pretty much my whole life.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, in Evergreen Park, and then my family moved out to the suburbs in Lamont, and then I currently live in Evergreen Park with my family.
Awesome. How about you, Captain?
And then I'm from Park Ridge, so I was born in Wisconsin, but my family was from the northwest side. My dad was just up there working when I was born, so but I lived in. Grew up there, starting in 1983, and then currently live in the West Loop, but have our first child on the way, so we'll probably be heading out towards the suburbs sometime again soon.
That's kind of the move, huh? Congratulations, Cap.
Thank you.
And you also served in the Navy?
Yeah, so I joined the Navy in 2000, almost right out of high school. And I was in for 4.5 years. I was on the USS Antietam. So it was a guided missile cruiser out of San Diego. I did 2 deployments on there, one 6-month and one 8-month deployment, and probably hit some of the same ports that Ray had hit, because the Navy has their schedules that they stick to for those. And then I got out in 2004, and then they were looking for volunteers to deploy to the Middle East through what's called the Inactive Reserves, which is a program that the military has, so they don't have to institute a draft anymore. So it's basically like a backup list. And so I was, getting contacted from them saying they needed volunteers to go to the Middle East. So I did that, and I went back in from 2006 to 2007. And I was in a unique position for a Navy personnel, but we were on land in Kuwait, at the border of Iraq and Kuwait doing vehicle searches and things like that. So,
Christ. Well, it was nice and quiet around that time.
5.5 years. Yeah, very quiet.
Well, how did you guys you guys didn't know each other when you guys were in the service, is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We were in the Navy at different times on different ships. When I got my captain's license and I was working for a tour company in the city, I was also doing side jobs as captain, and it took me through a whole bunch of people's private boats, and they would, trust me to drive their boats. But I also took care of them, met all their needs. And one year I was taking care of this one boat and happened to be in the same harbor and on the same dock as Eric had his private boat. And I think, Eric, I was the second guy you met, right, on the dock?
Yeah. When my wife and I had a boat and brought it, or still have a boat, but we brought it over to the harbor. And aside from one guy who had helped me tie up my boat when we first got there, I think it was a couple of days after that I was there doing some work, and the boat that Ray was captaining was right across the dock. So we kind of introduced ourselves because we were both working on the boats, and then made the Navy connection pretty quick. And then from there, just kind of worked together on a few other boats and kept in touch. Called each other. Ray helped me with some stuff on my boat that I wasn't familiar with. So just kind of started our friendship then.
Wow.
So what?
Just totally by happenstance, huh?
So what got you guys into? Tell us how you guys got involved in finding these retired fire boats and using them for doing this Chicago River tour.
Yeah, well, I would always drive my wife nuts because I was always looking to see, what the next greatest boat is out there. I've always wanted to. I've driven private boats, but I knew I always wanted to have a boat, have a company that that's rated for a lot more people as a tour boat. And I'm always searching not now, but I was always searching the internet. And I came across this boat. It was just online, and it literally was probably put up a day or two before I saw it. And I took a look at it. That night, I contacted the broker. The very next day, I was up in Door County, where the boat was, in Wisconsin. And I just walked through the whole boat and took tons of pictures. And when I was coming back down from Chicago, it was like October of 2018. And it was funny because Eric called me, and I was already thinking about him, but Eric called me thinking that I was delivering a boat for the winter on this boat that we've worked together on before. And because he was delivering his boat, back to the location for the winter storage. And I said, Eric, let me get back into better cell range. I've got something I think we need to talk to each other about, and meet up. I got a great opportunity. And yeah, that's what we did. We met up. We went to the Billy Goat on Lower Michigan, and I showed him a whole bunch of pictures. We had a couple cocktails and said, how the heck did we get this boat into Chicago?
Wow.
Did you guys get any history on that boat? Were you given like the service that it was in and stuff like that?
Yeah. So, well, it was kind of funny because while Eric, it was about ready to leave for Florida when we were looking at, to purchasing the boat and trying to build up a business plan and get all that. We actually got in touch with the Chicago Fire Museum, the Fire Museum of Greater Chicago, and they had unbelievable records on the fires and personnel that all served on the boat or the fires. People, unfortunately, there were a couple people that passed on the boat too, but they had the information. It was just awesome, and gave us more of a push to get this boat and really, tell her tale, I guess, to the passengers that come to the boat. It's kind of unique.
Well, we've had Father John McNallis on the podcast from the Fire Museum, and we've actually stopped by there, and they have everything you could ever want to know about the fire department. And so it doesn't surprise me that they had every piece of information regarding that boat. Can you give us some specs on this boat? Like, how big is it? Like, I imagine the pump and everything like that still works.
No, the pump, actually real quick, Father John was a great guy. He helped us. We went over to the Fire Museum and visited him a couple times, and then he came over with kind of a group, the board of directors and stuff from the Fire Museum. We gave him a cruise on the fireboat last year, but great guy. They're very helpful, and that museum over there they just have so much information. So the quick overview of the boat, the keel was laid in 1936. The boat was placed into service in May of 1937, and then it was in service until I believe March of 1981, March or October. I don't know why those two are 6 months apart, but March or October of 1981, the boat was retired, and it was retired actually because the pumps on board had seized up. One or multiple pumps. They had 4 of them. So that was why the city actually got rid of the boat. So after that, it was converted into a tour boat. It did some tours here in Chicago, and then it was purchased by marine, like well-known marine family up in Sturgeon Bay. Mm-hmm. And they did kind of what we're doing, but up in Sturgeon Bay. It's a little different, there's not a skyline to look at or anything, but they still have some cool landmarks up there. So they would just do cruises from inside Sturgeon Bay to out at like the lighthouse near Lake Michigan and come back. So it was a little different setup, but it was an operating tour boat when we found it. And, when, like Ray said, when we saw it.
So there wasn't a lot that you guys had to do to convert it over, really?
Yes and no. Oh. We kind of joked at saying the boat was having an identity crisis, whether it was wanted to be a fireboat or a pirate ship, because they had a lot of just little gimmicky stuff on there, which we understood. They did a lot of events for kids and things like that, so they had some stuff on there. But once we were doing this and getting it back to Chicago, we said everything on here needs to be fire related or Chicago related, because we want it to be like a miniature museum.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean,
the goal that we had and what we turned it into. So,
right. I mean, the fire service is pretty well known, I think, across the country for kind of taking something that exists already and kind of repurposing it for what we do. Did this boat seem to have, like, what was this boat's intended purpose prior to it becoming a fireboat, or was it actually designed for that?
It was designed it was designed for Chicago, specifically.
Oh, okay.
So prior to it being in service, they had steamships, which had the big, smoke, like exhaust stacks and everything. And this was built specifically for Chicago to fit underneath all the bridges.
Oh, wow.
So it could, minimizing response time for emergencies and things like that, because they had, we actually have an article from, back in like the late 30s when the boat was built. And it gives some statistics on, the boat saved the city 1,800 bridge openings a year, which saved, X amount of money. And it, eased congestion, and in Chicago in that time was a booming city. So
Wow.
You know, every time there was a fire, the boats had to respond to a call. All the bridges go up and just it was a lot more efficient to have these boats. They're built with a low profile and, could still respond relatively quickly to any waterside emergencies or anything like that.
Is that boat designed for rescue or just fighting fires?
She was designed for fighting fires and rescue. She was actually the city's first diesel-powered boat. And when she was launched, she was also, at the time, the world's largest fire boat, pumping at 10,000 gallons a minute. And she held that record for a little bit till her sister boats were built in 46, 47.
Okay. Well, do you know, since researching that specific boat, do you know if that boat went to any historic fires that people might be familiar with?
Yeah, actually there's a pretty big fire, I believe, in 1967 that burned McCormick Place down.
Yeah. Okay.
And that fire was in January, so there were a couple different stories about why this was happening, but they weren't able to access the hydrants. From the units on land weren't able to access the hydrants. So one of the features of this boat, and also the Victor Schlager, which is another fireboat at the time, and then the Joseph Medill, which was the third fireboat for Chicago. These three boats got called over to McCormick Place, and each boat had several connections on the side, and they could run hoses to the guys on land. So the Schlager, the Medill, and the Bussy, our boat, all sat off in the lake right off McCormick Place, and they ran lines to the guys on land to help them fight the fire. And we did a piece with WGN about a month ago, and they actually had some of the audio from those dispatch calls, saying, engine 41 responding, and, you heard the other boats talking too. So there was that was one of the big ones. And then we have some pictures inside the boat. There was one fire in 1939 that was like a grain elevator fire on somewhere down here downtown, and then there was another one in 1951 where we actually have pictures of it putting water on the fire. So
it was actually, that particular boat was designated Engine 41.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And it still is. There was I think it started out as Engine 37, and then when another fireboat had been built, they changed it to 37 and made ours Engine 41.
And what was the name of the boat again? Prior to you guys getting the busing?
Then it's the Fred A. Bussy.
Okay. And do you know who that name was from?
That's still its name.
Okay. And do you know the individual that the boat was named after? His significance?
Yeah, he was. Go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, so during the 1920s, he was our mayor of the city of Chicago. If you actually Wikipedia him, you could, one of the first things that you read is that he was one of the most corrupt mayors in the city of Chicago.
It's saying a lot.
Yeah, about it.
But we thought that was kind of cool because Chicago has that kind of notoriety, and then we saw what the name was, so we were like, oh, this is perfect,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, outside of naming it the Al Capone, I think you guys are doing all right.
Yeah.
So give us a when somebody signs up and takes your boat tour, give us a little idea of what they're going to see, where they're going to go.
So we offer kind of two different tours. Some of them just stay on the lake, and it's more of like we call it a sunset cruise. So we'll have just music playing. We have a little bar on board, so people can grab cocktails, listen to music, enjoy the scenery, things like that.
Was that the
The other
original
one
bar?
is-
Was that the original bar that the firemen used, or is that a new bar that you guys built?
No, that was actually Ray's father-in-law helped
Okay.
put the current one together.
Okay.
And the bar's got pictures of the old steamboats and in action, and some of the crews that were on the fireboats, and our boat pictures in action, stuff like that. And it's inlaid on top of the bar.
That's really cool.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so then we also do, we call them, it's a guided historical tour. So it's similar to your architecture cruise, that they have here in Chicago, but we also talk about some of the history of the boat. So for example, like when the boat was first placed into service with the fire department, it was, the boat used to be a firehouse. So they would have a group of like 6 guys, 8 guys that would stay on the boat 24/7. That was, their firehouse. And so our boat was docked at, right by the Franklin Street Bridge, which is at kind of the Wolf Point, where the 3 branches converge. So that we incorporate that into our tour. We could point out, this was where this boat was first, stationed, when it was and just kind of give people a glimpse of, what that was like back in the day. And then, when we go on to the river, the Chicago Marine Safety Station is right there. And one of our sister ships, which was built in the late 40s, is still an active part of Chicago Fire Department. So we can point that out to people and say, this is what we used to look like when we were a fireboat. So that's a kind of neat part of our tour that, separates us from the other architecture cruises and things like that. Because this is an actual piece of Chicago history. So.
Yeah, absolutely. They get to take a tour in the museum. So tell us if somebody wanted to take this boat tour with you guys, or somebody wanted just to spend time on that boat with you guys and kind of get a little bit of fire department history, how can somebody arrange to take that tour?
Our website is fireboattours.com. And so you can go onto our website, you can view our schedule, see the different cruises we option that we offer. There's a little bit of history on there as well. And then on social media, we're on Facebook and Instagram as Chicago Fireboat Tours. So people can go there and follow us, and we'll post, updates on events we're doing and things like that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I gotta say, I was born and raised in this city, and that is my favorite view of this entire town is from the river. It's just it's so cool to see everything. You feel so small when you're looking up at these things, and like Vince was saying, it's pretty cool to take a tour while being inside the museum. It's just incredible.
Well, you're getting to take that tour on a 44 boat that was in service for 44 years.
Yeah, and almost 100 years old.
Yeah. We're hoping, by the time she reached her 100th birthday, that we got some systems on the boat restored. We over the next couple of years, we want to be able to possibly restore one of the pumps and actually be able to pump some of the water again, through that boat, to kind of get it.
That's the one question that every single person that we tell about our boat is asked, from like 5-year-old kids up to like 85-year-old men, is, does the pump still work? Because they would like to see it spray some water. So that's like Ray was saying, that's definitely on our list of things to do. So,
well, depending on how, be careful with that, guys, because depending on how things go, you guys get that pump up in service, they might be throwing you guys in the mix of things and need your help downtown.
Well, as a professional mariners, we actually have to go to any call that's right next to us. For any boaters out there that need help, it's kind of a rule for any tour boat. You always come to us. and people in need.
That and the fact that with your guys' I totally forgot. Yeah, when you're in the Navy, you guys are all trained as firemen, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So we're definitely not breaking any rules. Talking to a couple firemen working the fireboat.
There you go.
All right. So if people want to schedule a tour, it's fireboattours.com and Chicago Fireboat Tours on your social media, correct?
Correct.
That is.
When did you guys actually start doing tours for this?
We started last year. We purchased the boat and brought it back to Chicago last year in May. And then we were at kind of a working facility on the south branch of the river, renovating the boat and things like that. And we got to our dock and did our first cruise last year, July 6th. And we did our last cruise November 19th. We did almost 4,000 passengers in that time. This was our second season. We were hoping it was going to be our first full season, but we'd been shut down until June 23rd was our first cruise this year. But over this past weekend, we just hit 1,000 passengers carried. So for all things considered, with being shut down for the first half of our season, basically, we were real happy when we saw that we had carried 1,000 passengers this year. So,
Oh yeah,
still a long way to go. We would have liked to have been a little bit farther than that, but we'll try again next year.
How competitive is that boat tour market down there? Because you see a lot of boats down there. Are you guys always super competitive with each other down there?
It's kind of interesting because, I think it's more competition between Wendella Shoreline and the First Lady boats, because they are what they call a architecture tour, and they're all right there. We're kind of a little bit off the path of them. I mean, yeah, we talk about also architecture, but we really, I try to separate us with giving more Chicago history. We kind of tell you a better story. I truly believe that of, what has happened, including, the talks about the boat, the firefighting that it has done, and just the changes throughout the years, like this boat has seen it. From 1937 till now, it's been there and seen most of the changes. So that's what we kind of try to tell to our passengers. And I truly believe that makes us different, and plus that we're on an actual piece of floating history. So, I mean, even though there is some competition because it's a tour, but I really think that because we're off the beaten path and it's more kid-friendly and family-friendly, it really separates us.
Yeah, and I think the information that you guys are providing is going to be a lot more interesting to people who actually live in Chicago, or and who live around here, where they may be hearing stuff that they didn't know about the city that they live in, and like you said, they're taking that tour in the museum.
Exactly.
Yeah, and when they're looking at it just like you were saying before, going down the river through the heart of the city, looking all that stuff, or looking up at, all the buildings and everything. And then just thinking back to looking at the pictures inside, seeing our boat actually fighting a fire back in, 1939, when this was, still becoming the city it is. And then just, seeing how things have evolved to what it is today. The fact that our boat had, helped preserve some of that, by helping put out fires and things like that, because it was a really different river. It was a really different city at that time. We had a lot of loading facilities for commercial cargo and things like that. So you had these big warehouses along the river, and if those caught fire, you had to hit it from the stockyards. It's kind of one of the things that we kind of said tongue-in-cheek was that the river has gone from stockyards to steakhouses, because now you're going down the same river and you're looking at people sitting out on a patio eating a steak, or having cocktails or whatever. And then that used to be a very industrial and very dirty area, but now they're kind of trying to bring that back to life and make it a little more pleasing to spend time at. So
do you guys were you able to find out how much money that boat cost the city when it was first built?
Yeah. Actually, in the I found out through our research that the Museum of Greater Chicago, they actually have books on like all the fire history, and actually in that it says how much they paid for building the boat. It was like $160,000 or something like that, right around that dollar amount, back in 1936.
Wow.
So that was a lot of money back then.
Well, you're coming on the heels of the Depression, and so
Right.
that kind of money for a boat that's going to go fight fires, somebody was a heck of a salesman back then.
Yep.
All right. Well, give that information one more time. Is there a phone number, or you just want everybody to funnel through your social media and website?
Our website, again, is fireboattours.com, and then Instagram, Facebook at Chicago Fireboat Tours. But our main, contact line as well for the business is 312-919-3367. So people can call there, and we can take reservations over the phone and whatnot. But the website is the easiest way to do all that, because it gives you the real time schedule and all that stuff. So
there's also one thing that we didn't talk about yet, was that we also can do private events on the boat as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So we have drink packages and set up, so like firefighter retirement parties, or just a family get together. Last year we were asked to be a host of a wedding. Unfortunately, because of all the COVID things, that didn't pan out for this year. But we could do weddings on the boat. Actually, I'm an ordained minister, and actually another crew member is an ordained minister as well on our boat. So it's kind of cool. We could do it all.
Is it true that as a captain out on the water, you can actually be a minister and conduct services like that?
It's only true if you're in international waters.
Oh, okay.
And unfortunately, on Lake Michigan, you're never in international waters.
Okay. So a couple more questions before we let you guys go. First of all, do both of you have an anchor tattoo?
I do.
You do? Who's that? Is that Ray?
I do. Yeah, I actually got my anchor tattoo before I even went into the Navy. The funny thing is, I've always been on water since the day I was born. I was in Sea Scouts growing up and stuff like that. And when I got out of high school, when I turned 18, I wanted to get an anchor and or a tattoo. And so I got the anchor, and that was my first tattoo. And I was white as a ghost. And the tattoo artist asked me, "Are you going to drive?" I said, "Yeah, why not?" Because no, you're not. You're white as a ghost. And I said, "Oh, okay." Later, I followed up a couple weeks later with putting an eagle over it too.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm betting dollars to donuts that Eric, you got a mermaid or something like that, right? Right, you got to have some kind of an octopus, like something like that, don't you?
No, I do have a kind of water-related or water-looking tattoo on my back with a sun and some water stuff underneath it. So,
okay. Right.
Yeah, it was kind of like a rite of passage in the Navy. You had to get a tattoo or something. But I was just telling Ray recently that I needed to get, a more official Navy tattoo. So maybe I'll get a shark with a sailor hat or something on it.
I keep telling Eric that when we surpass 12,000 passengers in a year, that I'm going to get the tattoo of the Bussy on my leg.
All right. Well, let's make that happen. Let's make
All
that
right,
happen.
let's do it. One other thing, actually, that I wanted to touch on, because I meant to talk about it earlier, because they were a pretty integral part in bringing our vision for this company to reality, was it's a nonprofit called the Veteran Business Project. And this was founded by an ex-Marine attorney who started this because way back in the day, like post World War II, the amount of veterans that had started small businesses was like upwards of 40%. It was like 45, 47% or something like that. And the current rate for that is about 10%. And so he came up with this vision and said, how do we get these resources for veterans to start their own businesses, to, come back, because it is a relatively difficult transition for a lot of people. If they're straight out of high school, then they're in a structured environment for 4 years, and then all of a sudden they're out. But there are a lot of different skills and unique skills that the veterans have. So they started this company called Veteran Business Project, and they provide, it's kind of like a matchmaker for veteran entrepreneurs, banks that will lend them money, and businesses that are, looking to sell. Sometimes if there's a restaurant and a veteran wants to get into the restaurant industry, they'll match them up. So it's a great organization, and they helped us with our financial projections, with business planning, and then, partnered us up with the bank and, kind of walked us through that. And, they were in the meetings with the bank and things like that. So, great organization. They're doing a lot of good things, and it wouldn't have happened. We wouldn't have, been where we are without that organization. So I encourage everyone to check that out as well, because it's a good organization, and they're trying to, gain a lot of support and things like that. And, like I said, it wouldn't have happened without them. So.
Wow, that's great. That's great. I know my grandfather was a veteran of World War II, and I know from stories I heard, one of his biggest issues was coming back home and kind of reallocating himself to what he wanted to do and where he wanted to get back into. And had a project been like this around, it would have been probably would have been pretty helpful to a lot of guys, and can be helpful a lot more guys down the line now too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you guys for being on. We appreciate your time. We want everybody who listening to the podcast, take a tour on your guys' boat, fireboattours.com, and the Chicago Fireboat Tours on social media. Thanks again, Captain Ray, Captain Eric. We appreciate your time. Good luck, and we'll see you down there.
Yeah,
our pleasure. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you guys, and please let us know when you guys want to come see it. Ray and I are usually there 7 days a week. We're running tours usually Wednesday through Sunday now, but if that's the day you can get down there, then please let us know. We'll show you around and give you a tour.
Oh man, we
sounds great. Yeah, sounds great. Be careful what you ask for, because you guys do have a bar there. So
we'll start.
Oh yeah, that's another thing we should mention, since this is a first responder related podcast. But for firefighters who come on board, we have a patch collection above the bar. So if firefighters bring in a patch, they could trade it in for a drink. However, yeah, we do have to specify only one, because I know some firefighters with a shoebox full of things will try and drink for a year for free. So.
Well, I was going to start ripping all the patches off my uniforms and go down there and meet
And still wouldn't be enough for Vince. Yeah,
let me go stock up on some extra beer first before that happens.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to make that happen, boys. We'll make sure to stock up the bar just so that we can all empty it later on.
Well, thanks again, guys. We appreciate it. Keep up the good work, and we'll definitely see you guys down there.
Oh yeah, and gentlemen, thank you very much for your service.
We appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Take it easy, guys.
All right, you too. Take care.
We want to thank our sponsor, Binderlift. Bender lift is a patient lift device that buckles handles around the patient's torso so firefighters can safely lift patients of any size with ease. The most injury-prone non-fire ground activity a firefighter does is lift a patient. If you're lifting heavy patients, and let's be honest, all of us are, then you're going to want to check out the Bender lift so you can avoid getting injured from lifting a patient. Vince, have you ever lifted up a heavy patient? Or any patient at all?
I've blown my back out so many times lifting heavy patients. I can't count the number of times. So something like Bender Lift is a pretty awesome product, especially if it's going to save me from having to lay up from the job or go to medical or just work the rest of my day in pain.
Absolutely, and they'll let anyone try it out for free. Doesn't matter what your role is within the department. Just sign up for a free field trial on their website, and they'll send you a set of Bender lifts to try out for a month or so, absolutely free. We use them in our department, and I recommend you give them a try. Just Google Bender Lift to watch some videos and sign up for a free trial.
Bender Lift, the new slogan should be Bender Lift, save your back. Save your back.
The opinions and views are that of Chicago's bravest stories and their guests. They do not necessarily reflect the views of any municipal governments, fire protection districts, fire departments, EMS, or law enforcement organizations.
This has been a Fire and Iron Media production. You have something to say, people want to listen. How was that, Daddy?